Today we're bringing you round 2 of our top 5 cooperative games for couples. I'm Mark Maya.
And I'm Brittany.
And this is
Board Game Coffee.
Let's do this.
Vincent, get back here this instant! Oh.
Thank you. Oh, I love you too. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you.
Alright, now we do already have a top 5 cooperative game for couples, but as we game as a couple, we keep discovering new, gooder, and better games. Well, not necessarily better, but other good games, and we want to share them with you today, right now. So let's start with number 5.
The Exit series from Cosmos Games. So these games are 1 to 4 players and ages 12 and up. They usually play for about an hour or 2.
Unless you're us, and then they play for like 5 or 6.
It's true.
We are not good at these games, but we like them. They're on our top 5 list. That's got to say something, right? But you know what our mistake was? This is level 3. This is the Sinister Mansion, which is a level 3 of 5. So novice would be 1 and 5 is expert. So we're sitting at a level 3. So we're closer to expert than novice, but we
Should
definitely
have started at 1.
Yeah, we should have started at 1. We are not level 3 people. No. But maybe that's because this was our first go. You know what I mean? I think if we started at 1, then we'd know what to expect.
That's a valid point.
It's made up of a series of crazy puzzles stuffed into this tiny little box, and they're more clever than you might think. When we went inside, we're like, yeah, we're heroes. We saw
Totally
like 1 or 2, and we're like high-fiving, like,
We got this. We got this. Then we got to 3. And
and then we're like, we
don't got this.
We don't got this at all. And then next thing you know, our like first 10 minutes we were like high-fiving, went to like 3 hours, didn't go well. Because the kind of puzzles you're gonna find in this box is they're like, you fold things, you tear things, you write things down, you hold things to the light, you squint. There's all kinds of weird little things. Not that squinting's all that weird, but you do a lot of things that you would not suspect. You definitely gotta think outside the box when you're playing an exit game.
So there's a story at the beginning of the game which kind of sets the theme of the entire kind of mystery that you're going through. However, I don't know that you necessarily need the story. Like, I don't feel like it ties together through the whole thing.
No, you're right. Like the story just, it sets it up, right? It basically like, you are in Spooky Mansion, go. And then the puzzles, I guess, kind of tie in with the theme.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's a story.
Yeah, right.
Really. Like I don't feel like I'm playing a story game. I just feel like I'm playing a series of puzzles. And a great thing about this game is it's really easy to learn. Like you'll pick up the rule book, or actually you don't even have to pick up the rule book. There's an app. There's a Cosmos app on your phone which you can download, pick whatever Cosmos game you want, and then download the tutorial for that game. And they're like fully animated tutorial. They're voiced over, so you can just sit and watch. And what's good about the exit games is you only need a little bit of information to get started, and then you kind of just do things as you go.
So all those features make it a really great family-friendly game for game night.
Oh yeah, it's a great game to have with your family, but hopefully your kids are smarter than we are. Start at level 1.
So if you're the type of person who really likes to go to escape rooms, then definitely check out the Exit series, because I think you'll really enjoy it like we did.
Yeah, as long as you're not held up on that whole like, I need to be in a room and locked up. No, you can actually lock yourself in your living room if you want, and then, tell somebody, don't let me out until I solve this game. You can do that if you want. It's crazy, but you could. So to wrap it up, the Exit series is more than just this one box. There's a whole bunch of them. Oh, and one thing we forgot to mention is that these things are really affordable.
Oh, right.
And they're a one-time play, so it being affordable makes a big difference. It's like $12 or around that range depending on where you're located. And because once you play these, warning, you won't be able to play them again or even give them to somebody, because you will be damaging the components in this permanently. But if you like puzzles and that's your thing, definitely give this a go. Now, how about we go check out our number 4. Now, before we jump into our number 4, I'd like to warn the audience that this game is disturbing. It might not be for everyone. And that game is
Tainted Grill from Awakened Realms. So this game is a 1 to 4 player game. It plays about 2 hours per chapter, and it's for ages 14 and up.
It's a 2-hour nightmare is what it is.
It really is.
In the best kind of way. It's not like the game is terrible. The game is great. But it's scary.
It's scary.
It is dark.
But it's a dark adventure, which keeps pulling me back in.
Well, it's like a really spooky, twisted, choose your own adventure experience. And as you can probably tell by the art on the box, you can get that eerie feeling. This is what your soul will feel like once you're done playing this game.
It's set in a fantasy setting with a really deep story.
And it plays as a campaign. So from beginning to end, it is that one deep story, like she said, except it's got branching paths. So your experience, my experience, her experience probably will be completely different.
I really like the map system. I think it's really cool how you like navigate through the different parts. And then there's like these statues with these flames or...
Well, they're called menhirs. I think is how I'm pronouncing it correctly. And they ward off evil. So you know how you can think of it is like a giant spotlight from the heavens, and the center is the menhir. And they basically keep you safe-ish.
In that area.
In an area. And as they go out, that area's done. So you have to like travel and turn more on. And then there's a new area.
So I think that's really cool because there's places that you were at that you needed to get things, but then the light turns off and you can't get to those places anymore. I think I feel like that's super interesting.
And it also gives you like this great sense of exploration because you don't have like a big map where you're like, oh, I can see where I have to go. You actually have to explore to find things. Mm-hmm. And what's cool about it is how it keeps closing down on you. So it's like the world is huge, but your map is usually fairly tiny, like it still fits on your table. Mm-hmm. It's a really cool system, the way the map like disappears the farther you explore. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
I really like the character development in this game because I feel like you're building them constantly, and each character is so uniquely different. They have their perks and then they also have their setbacks as well, but they're very different from each other.
Yeah, and that's part of the story, right? It's like we're all like misfits. Each character in the game has something wrong with them. So like my character, every time I get exhausted, I take damage. And what's your character?
And my character, every time I go into a village, I lose a reputation because nobody likes me.
Right, so it's a lot like reality. So when I enter a room with Brittany, in reality, my reputation goes down. Same thing as with Tainted Grail. So it's weird how that hit. You nailed it.
I need some love in the comments below, people.
And I do like how they upgrade.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Because you gain XP as you do things, and then you can improve them, and there's these like superpowers you can get to add to your characters, and it's their abilities they always have.
And the abilities also can trigger some of the locations. So sometimes you can't even explore a location unless you have a certain ability, which I think is really cool. Tainted Grail is actually written by a fantasy novelist, which is really cool.
Yeah, so that's why the story is
so good.
It's so good. It is so good.
But it's dark. So it's not for everybody.
I'd say this is probably one of the better written games that I've ever read. So if you want like a really well written story, this is it. Like I don't think it gets much better than this. So as a couple, we really enjoy sitting down with this story experience. It's kind of like going to the movies, but
it's a date night, but an interactive movie, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interactive movie date night thing. We just sit. Actually, after we finish this video, we're gonna go play where we left off. All right, well, that's enough about Tainted Grail. Let's go check out what our number 3 cooperative games for couples is. All right, for this one, we're still keeping it creepy, but we're toning it down. We're bringing it to an acceptable family level of creepy, and that is
Cthulhu Death May Die, published by CMON Games. So this game is a 1 to 5 player game. It is ages 14 up, and it plays for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, and when we first got this game, like when we cracked it open, we played it for like a week and a half straight, like 2 to 3 times a night. Like we were just couldn't get enough of this game.
Yeah.
This game, as you can probably tell, as most Cthulhu games, is inspired by the H.P. Lovecraft stories of the same nature. You know, investigators investigating or trying to put a stop to the old one's shenanigans. And it's set in the 1920s, so that's cool too.
I really like the look and the feel of this game. I feel like it completely pulls you into the theme through the art style.
It's beautiful artwork. Like whoever did this,
beautiful.
Each level is a self-contained episode, which comes in its own little box. So you don't actually have to play it in order like a campaign. You can just choose, I want to play episode 3 of season 1, because there are multiple seasons if you got the Kickstarter expansion. So you just pick it up and everything you need, well, almost everything you need, all the unique items you need for that episode are in that box. So you just pour it out, set it up, and you're good to go.
The goal of each episode is to stop the ritual, and it's really cool because there's like this monster track or the Elder One track, and you can actually see the monster come through this track, and you can see when it's going to hit the board.
Yeah, and it makes it tense.
It does make it tense.
Now, although each episode is disrupting the ritual, you might think that's very samey, but the way you have to stop the ritual is so different in every episode, it doesn't really get in the way, and you don't really focus on like, oh, I have to stop the ritual again. No, it's really well done. It's a fun game to play. Mm-hmm. Hence why we played it like a week straight, a week and a half straight.
And I like all the different characters you can play within it too. I feel like that's fun.
Oh yeah, that's really cool, right?
There's so many characters to choose
from. Especially if you got the Kickstarter. Like we got the Kickstarter, so we got like a stack of them, and they're all unique abilities, and you can upgrade them all. And you really like that, right? You enjoy upgrading characters.
I do.
And they are so different. And how hard a level is really depends on which characters you choose.
That's such a valid point. I really like the dice-based combat system in this, and it's cool too because you can get companions along the way and kind of put them in your board so they can help you do things. Or they are bad, like bad omens.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things you can pick up, like strays. And the companions you get aren't necessarily like they could be anything. They could be creepy people or things, or just okay people that you eventually sacrifice to save yourself. Now, the story in this, as we mentioned, is dark, but it's not nearly as dark as Tainted Grail. This is something you could have your family around the table, unless you play with that expansion with the giant mini. That might terrify a toddler, because it's the size of a toddler.
I really like this as well, playing as a couple, because I feel like we can problem solve together, which I really like doing.
It's got that good cooperative sense of like, we are trying to talk through. It's like, I'm gonna go over there. And then I remember one mission where you were in a room that was just like screwed over with demons, and I was in the next room and I like threw in a Molotov cocktail or something that managed to like wipe out all the demons but somehow not kill you. But then Cthulhu came and just like crushed me, so I sacrificed myself to save you.
But we won.
We did.
So
that's what matters.
At the end of the day, it was a good game.
It was a good game. All right, now let's find out what our number 2 of our top 5 cooperative games for couples is. All right, now before we bring out our number 2, I'd like to point out that I'm starting to notice a pattern, is we have a lot of fantasy adventure happening in this round of top 5s. And it's not getting any different, or it's not changing with our next game, which is
Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. So this game plays 1 to 4 players. It's ages 14 and up, and it plays for about a half hour to an hour and a half, depending on the level.
And how good you are as a fantasy monster slayer. Now, although this is Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, this isn't a legacy game, although it does have legacy components, because you can play this game over again no problem. The only thing that is tricky is there's a world map where you permanently put stickers on. That you're gonna have to figure out how to keep track of again, but it's not the most complicated thing. It basically, you could track it on a sheet of paper saying like, this is the level I've done. And that's pretty much you do. Just track the levels you've done, and then that can replace the map. But other than that, nothing's like destroyed, nothing's permanently changed. Where in like Gloomhaven, your cards, you put stickers on your cards to permanently change that. But that is not in Jaws of the Lion. They've cut out a lot of the complications of Gloomhaven. A lot of the things that made people like kind of intimidated by Gloomhaven, they pulled that out. Mm-hmm. And then we got Jaws of the Lion.
Mm-hmm. I like how this is easier to get into than Gloomhaven. This is more of like a streamlined version, which I really like. It's less intimidating. And I really enjoyed the story elements of it and just like developing your character. But then again, as you can see, as a theme, I really like the developing character component of all of these games we've already discussed.
And what Brittany said about being streamlined is a great way, because if you like Gloomhaven, or if you want to get your friends into Gloomhaven and they won't because they think it's too much, try them on Jaws. Jaws is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have a review for Jaws actually on our channel. So check out our review of Jaws of the Lion. You can probably guess we like it It's on this. It's on this one. So it's not a surprise, but I still find it entertaining. And the best part about getting into the Gloomhaven universe through Jaws of the Lion is that the first 5 levels are set up as a tutorial. So it walks you through, and it doesn't give you everything at once. So it's like, okay, all you need to know is how to like move, attack, and do this little thing. How to play with your cards, for example. So you do that. Then you go to the next level, and they're like, okay, now we're gonna teach you how to use this. Okay, then you figure that out. Once you pass it, you go to the next level. We're gonna teach you how to do this. And it holds your hand all the way through, making learning Gloomhaven really easy. And by the time you're done it, you kind of think to yourself, why was I ever intimidated by Gloomhaven? This isn't hard at all.
That's so true. And I really like, as well, the character side, where your character is dependent on the other character.
Oh yeah, it's a very
is cooperative.
Very cooperative. It's more cooperative than most cooperative games. Like you really need to rely on each other, especially your character, because you're playing with the Void Warden. Mm-hmm. So the Void Warden needs to controls me and controls the enemies, and you control me more than we could control both, right?
I can control both, yeah. But it's interesting because most of my moves, I don't necessarily move. I'm moving everybody else around the board. So I think that's actually really cool.
Because your character is because the characters are completely different. I'm like a ranged character. I can get in close if I have to. And Brittany she's like the healer and the crowd control. So she can control people on the board like she mentioned.
Yeah.
And what's good is as much as we love playing this game as a couple, because again, it's another sit down adventure story experience. Oh, and the story isn't that heavy. It's so easy to take in. It's easy to follow what's going on.
Really enjoyable.
But what's good about it is if we ever want to break out of our couples night, it's easy to add another character and have somebody else come in. Mm-hmm. And what's cool about it is they all have their sheets, so when they come back, they feel invested in the game.
Yeah, agreed. I was one of those people that was very intimidated by Gloomhaven, but I love Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. I highly, highly recommend it. It's such a great adventure game. It's a great battle system. It's just really enjoyable to play.
And I gotta say that we just recently put out our top 50 board games. And it was really my top 50 board games because some of those games you hadn't played. But the reason Brittany doesn't have a top 50 is because Brittany is not one to just throw out a recommendation, right? So I don't know if there's 50 games you would just throw out as a recommendation because so if I've heard her actually say you need to play Jaws of the Lion, you'll like Jaws of the Lion. So that's got to be saying something. She doesn't pick many games to recommend. So this is recommended by the beautiful Brittany and myself, the clumsy Marky. That's what
the clumsy Marky. We
beautiful
need a
Brittany,
shirt.
the clumsy Marky. But that's it. So yeah, pick up Gloomhaven. Oh, and it's a Target exclusive right now.
Oh yeah.
It's a Target exclusive right now, so which is great. So it's accessible to people who have a Target. But we're Canadians, so we don't have a Target here. We have some Cephalofair connections. So that's where we got this baby. But
it will be going to a bigger
but yeah,
audience.
in August it's going worldwide. So or wherever in the world that they are supplying. So I'm not promising anything globally, but
it will be out there.
It'll be out there. So as Canadians, we can get it in August. So look for it, and let's what we should be looking for. Let's go look for our number 1. All right, Brittany, you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Let's continue with our adventuring we could have just made this our top 5 adventure games, it seems like, but let's do this. Ready? Our number 1 of our top 5 cooperative games for couples is
the Adventure series.
Yes, and we say the series in total because this is the series. This is as far as we have access to in North America. This is it, which is the Dungeon and Monochrome Inc.
So the Adventure series is published by Cosmos Games, and it's a 1 to 4 player game, and it's 14 plus for the Dungeon, and it's 16 plus for the Monochrome Inc. For ages.
Yeah, ages. And this is a choose your own adventure. Now, we've already had kind of a choose your own adventure with Tainted Grail on the list, but this is more like your traditional choose your own adventure, right? Because it's you know what it reminds me of? Like when you're a kid and you go to the library and you take out one of those choose your own adventure books and you're like, the blob is in your room and is chasing you. What do? Do you try to jump over to go out the window? And you go out the window. That's what this is like.
Yeah.
It's at that level, right?
It's so good.
It's at that family friendly and story level, but it is so good. It's so endearing, and it's not terrifying like Tainted Grail.
No.
Which we do like that. We do enjoy this. But that was an experience. Like when we played these, we picked it up and we just couldn't put it down until we just went through it. And that happened to both of them.
Yep.
Like, what did you say the time was on it? It's like 3 times 90 minutes, like 90 minutes
because they
per chapter.
They suggest that you can, or they don't suggest, but you can break it up by chapters.
Like you could pause or save and then continue another day.
Yeah, and that's how you had originally got me to play the first one, because we had started it really late at night and I was super tired, and you're like, oh, we'll just pause it. Yeah, that didn't happen. We were too addicted to it.
Yeah. So we ended up playing like this entire game all the way through, and it actually took us less than 3 hours. It was about 2.5 hours, and we went through the whole thing. You know, we sat there, we had some wine, we were just chit-chatting. Oh, and what makes it even better is it's got an app.
Oh, yes.
Right. We mentioned the Cosmos app for Exit, and that's great for getting the tutorial. But this, not only do you get a tutorial, but there's a narrator that will read the story for you. So
I highly recommend the narrator.
He does a great job.
It's such a great job. It actually feels like you're in the story and you're like waiting for the next thing.
It's cool because I don't feel like usually I have to read the story, and I feel that pulls me out because then I'm playing the part of like, you know, dungeon master, and then I'm going in and playing the part of character. But this way, I'm just like, ooh, do we go? And it plays on these cards that you like. As you explore, you find these rooms, and the rooms have all these numbers on them. So it's like the door has 101, and the window has 102, and the grate on the floor is 103. So you're like, I want to investigate the grate. So you type in 103 in the app, and then the voice will come out and say something like, a steam rises from the grate, and death awaits whoever. I don't write these things. That was not what it says. But that's what it said. Like something cool will come up, and it's like, do you stick your hand in the grate, or do you just not stick your hand in the grate? It's best I don't write these things. But that's what it's like, and it's so
good.
It's so good. And unlike the exit games, because the exit games are like heavy puzzle, and the story's just the beginning to set the theme. The puzzles are not heavy. They're very
like mini puzzles that you're solving. So you get a lot of wins, which makes you feel really good.
Yeah, you get that like
instant satisfaction.
Yeah, they get that satisfaction over and over again. Like every 30 seconds you're winning something. You're like, yeah. And they have this cool combo system, right? Where if you find items like a can opener and a can of cat food, and then you combine them, and then you get an open can of cat food, and you can do this.
And there's no spoilers there. That's actually how they teach it in the book.
Yeah, that's just an example. That actual example is not in either of these. But what's cool about that is then you get a can of cat food, and then you're like, oh, I want the can of cat food to interact with the cat, and you do that. And there's this cool numbering system, which is like, okay, the can of cat food is number 17, and the cat is number 16, so you enter 1716. There's an order that they go in. I don't remember what that is. And the tutorial, but learning it, you can jump into this really easy. You can glance through the rule book in like 5 to 10 minutes, if that, and then you'll be up and playing. It's not very difficult. And if somebody's teaching you, they can teach you how to play in like 2 minutes. So it's really good.
Yeah.
And what's good about these, unlike the exit games, is these don't get destroyed. So we lent these out to other couple friends, which is an additional bonus. So we actually just got these back just in time for this video.
Yeah,
so
they were talking to us. They asked us, they're like, what would be good for a date night? And we're like, do we have the best date night for
This
you?
is a great date night, probably, because all the other games, they're like Cthulhu, Gloomhaven, Tainted Grail, those are all great, but that's not in a date night. Those are multiple date nights.
Yeah.
So we just keep them set up and we play them when we can. We get in there and we have a great time with them. But this is just like one and done. You know what I mean? Like we play it and you're like, that's a great experience. Yeah. And you can do that because these are also affordable. These, again, it runs in around the same price range of the exit games, right? You're looking at about $15, $20-ish. Again, depending where you're located. But it's great, and the shareability of it is fantastic. And you know what I love the most? Because I love how much you love these games.
I love them. It's
If you haven't tried them, you need to try these right away. All right, so that is it. That is it for our top 5 cooperative games for couples. And you won't be disappointed with any of them, but note that there's a varied amount of difficulty in them and experiences. So I guess they're not for everyone. Not every game is for everyone. But I hope that we conveyed our experience enough that you know which one is good for you, right? Because adventure games is great. Tainted Grail is great. They are different experiences, but both story, choose your own adventure type of experiences, but very different. This, you can play with your kids. Tainted Grail,
Not so much.
No, they'd never sleep again,
Nope.
which means you'd never sleep again.
So if you end up playing one of these games because of our list, please let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and if you enjoyed it. And, if you've played these games separately, even not on a date night, let us know if you like them.
And if you what's weird about this is all these games can actually be played solo. So all these are all, we recommend these all for couples, but you could play them all solo. And actually, I think they probably make our top 5 solo game list too. They would, yeah. Because they all play great solo. I played Tainted Grail solo, and that was great. And I would definitely play this solo if I could sneak away from Brittany to play it, because I don't,
It would never happen. I would find you.
Yeah.
I'd find you.
Thanks for joining us. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. It's the best way to keep up to date with everything we do here at Board Game Coffee. But if you want to see more right now, we got plenty of videos to choose from. And if that's not enough, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Mark Maya, and this is Board Game Coffee. And remember, have fun, keep gaming, be social. See you next week.